of the reasons why I love sharing these recipes, these sort of leftover recipes, is because it came from a time, it's something very personal to me. It came from a time when myself and my siblings were small, and mommy would put together whatever she had to make something tasty and delicious for us. And this is why these recipes are so special to me, these leftover ones. So today we're doing fry aloo with leftover stewed pork. Well, typically it would be with leftover fried corned beef or leftover chicken, but over the years I've used leftover stewed pork, and I'm telling you, you're gonna be surprised how tasty and simple this is. Potato, onion, garlic, black pepper, and of course some oil. And oh man, I'm telling you, boy, I'm telling you. 2 tablespoons of olive oil on a medium flame. And right away, what we're going to do is to add some garlic. And the whole idea here is to sort of gently flavor the oil just a little bit. We're not trying to burn it, we're not trying to cook it. All we want to do is flavor that oil. And onion. See how simple that is? Some sliced onion, crushed garlic. And I'm just going to hit that to stir. My oil is still somewhat cold. It's coming up to temperature because I really don't want to burn anything here. And now if you want, the sort of steps here, if you want to add everything all at once, that's fine. You can add the potato first, that's fine. But the point is, because everything is going to fry in there, thus the term oh, I got TH there, boy, this accent pushing thing, boy. Anyhow, you might not even leave the airport yet and again. Anyhow, if you wanted to start with the potato, oil and the potato, cool. Add the onion and the garlic later. It's totally up to you. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's called fry aloo, which means everything's gonna be fried together. And speaking of which, you'll notice I'm using a non-stick pan. And I know people have their concerns about the non-stick pan, but what it allows me to do is to get that deep color, that sort of browning that's gonna happen, that's gonna take on that caramelization and sweetness and all kind of add nice flavors without the use of a lot of oil. You'll find that if you're using a stainless steel pan or any one of those other types of pots, you may have to use quite a bit of oil. So to cut back half, typically be about 4 tablespoons of oil. Understand? So we're trying to cut back on the oil by using the non-stick pan. That's just Uncle Chris' little tip. I love some fresh ground black pepper. And for a little heat, I've got a bit of chopped bird's eye or bird pepper. Move that around. And the onion is nice and soft. The garlic, taking on some nice fragrance here. So at this point, I have here my potato, which has been washed and peeled and sliced really thin. As you know, what I find is that by slicing it thin like this and wide, so a potato, I cut it lengthwise before I sliced it, it gives it a lot of real estate to hit the bottom of the pan. And once that hits the surface of the pan, while the frying action goes on, the greater the opportunity for caramelization and bringing out all those lovely flavors. I'm going to turn my heat up ever so lightly to medium and continue adding the potatoes. All the potatoes in there, going in with salt. I like using sea salt in just about everything that I cook. And all I'm going to do is push and flip. Everything has to get coated in that oil, and this is why I mentioned earlier that the traditional way of doing this in the sort of heavy iron pot that we have in the Caribbean, and we just lost piece there, it usually takes a lot of oil, and you don't want that. Nowadays we no longer have that iron pot, and it's an aluminum version they brought out about 20 years ago, something that, I don't think it's all that good for us to be using like this non-stick pan. That aluminum pan ain't doing us, pot ain't doing us any flavor. So what we're gonna do now, you have 2 options. One, put the lid on there and cook it on a medium flame, or leave it off with the lid and keep stirring it. I like to put the lid on there simply because it just creates some steam to start with to soften up and cook the potatoes. When it's about 5 minutes from being done, that is when I'm going to introduce the leftover stewed pork And if you go to CaribbeanPot.com, my website, you will find the recipe for stewed pork. Some people call it brown stew. We just call it stewed pork. And yo man, I'm talking about nice, tender, very flavorful pieces of pork with a lot of herbs in there and ginger and all those things. We got another quick stir. I gotta love the sizzle. Yeah, the smell of this right now, the combination of the garlic, the onion, and the potato in here is something I remember waking up to the smell early morning, because we would wake 5 o'clock in the morning to go to school, because I went to school in San Fernando, and it was far, and you had to wake up early to get a taxi to go down the road. And yo man, mommy would always have this for breakfast for us and stuff like that. Yeah, I couldn't find a lid large enough, so I'm unrocking a piece of oil under there. And you notice I've already stirred it a few times, and the bottom area that's touching, that's the sort of golden edges that you're gonna get. Now if you find it's a little bit too dry, you can obviously add a bit more oil, but remember to be mindful of the amount of oil that you're consuming, because at the end of the day, I need you guys around for a long time to keep supporting my work. You know what I mean? I care about all this. I totally care about all this stuff. But anyhow, it's been about, I'd say about 7 minutes now. I'm just going to continue cooking it, and it's going to start falling apart as you see there. That's cool, that's what you want. But the whole idea here now is to make sure everything is nice and soft, and then you taste it for salt. No, hold on that tasting for salt. You will add the leftover stewed pork to it then, because that will influence the amount of salt you will need to make it perfect for yourself. It's been 4 minutes since we last spoke. What I'm going to do now is hit that a little scrape on the bottom there. Shift that aside, create a sort of a circle area in the center, and I'm going to add my leftover stewed pork to there, and that will have a bit of fat and everything else. I want that to render out, and it's going to start making its way into everything in there, but later on we will stir it. But for now, I guess I want that to sort of come up to temperature, and then we'll stir it. And that little bit of stewed pork that you're seeing there will add a ton of flavor. And there's nothing wrong with keeping this fully vegan without adding the the stewed pork to this. Totally up to you. But in my humble opinion, I think this elevates the whole dish altogether. So if you have stewed pork or stewed chicken or anything like that, add it to here. I mean, talking about leftover, right? I ain't trying to get all it to purposely go and make stewed chicken or stewed pork or beef. Beef works great. And if all you have is corned beef, leftover corned beef or whatever, and what I mean, I know some people call it bully beef. It's stuff from the can, yeah. We have from the Caribbean, we eat the canned corned beef. So that works as well. If you head over to CaribbeanPot.com, you'll see those recipes. I believe so. I know the corned beef one for sure is there. All we're going to do now is give this a minute. We're going to taste it for salt, and we're going to continue cooking until everything is nice and tender, and the pieces of pork has an opportunity to flavor everything and to warm through thoroughly. Sup soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me. Email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pod. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irie. And this is where I'm gonna wrap things up. Chris here, CaribbeanPod.com. Always a pleasure having you all in the kitchen with me. Taste it for salt, adjust that as I said. And you have the opportunity now, if you want a little crust on it, this, like for instance, this piece here has a little crust on it. That is gold. That is pure gold. 24 karat. Anyhow, all I need to make this one happen. Irie?